Alright, let's see what we got going for today. Another delivery, huh? Let's see what they got in here. That's it, dude. Probably the most commonly asked question that I get is, how do I make more currency? What's the best thing to farm? And what I say most of the time is, just take a look at my videos. I almost always have the current best methods available for the league in one of my most recent videos that will work for just about any player that can do basic maps. However, I was thinking about the question and my answer to that, and I realized I was speaking from a position of years of experience and knowledge of the game, and I decided to sit down and figure out what are the strategies that I use to get more currency without doing much extra. Hey guys, Big Ducks here, and before we begin, there's a few things that we need to do. You need to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I've got a lot to teach you about how to make currency without doing too much extra. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first and foremost, I want to make it clear that the best way that you can make more currency out of Path of Exile without having to do anything extra is knowing what items are worth and how much to sell them for. It's one of the questions I get asked super often. Big Ducks, what is this item worth? How much do I sell it for? I don't know how to price check this. Can you price check it for me? Sometimes I'll do that, but honestly, it kind of gets tiring having to do it over and over and over again. So from now on, you should be looking at this video because I'm going to tell you to go look at it. So the first step that you need to do is you need to go download this tool called PoE Overlay. It's going to be linked down in the description. Go and grab it. So what that's going to look like is this right here. So this is PoE Overlay. What this does is that when you hit a certain hotkey, for me it's Control-D, it'll bring up this window right here. It'll give you all of the stats on the item, and it'll allow you to click each of them to remove the search function for it. So for right now, we're just going to search for damage increase and the rarity of items found. We'll come down here and we'll hit search, and this will give us every single item that's up for sale, how much they're being sold for, and how many of them there are. Now, why this is useful is that this will give you a glimpse into what the item is actually worth. However, what is more important is clicking this little currency icon right here. What that's going to do is it's going to load up the trade website automatically, and it's going to actually put in the filters that you've already selected right into here, and you don't have to do anything extra, right? So it's showing that it's a ring, it's showing that it's La Hoop of All, that it's a unique, it has the filters that you selected. It'll say no, it's not corrupted, and you can change down here when it was listed, if it's a buyout or fixed price, and this will give you the ability to look at all of the items that are sorted like that, right? Let's take this one step back. So once we have this open, we can look at our ring and be like, okay, well, it looks like the attribute roll is pretty low, but we can still search by that total attribute roll, right? And now we see that rings that have this amount of damage, this amount of rarity, and this amount of attributes are worth starting at around 12 chaos. Well, what do we do if we actually put in the total all elemental resistance roll as well? There's no results. That means that we've gone too specific. So maybe we can take out the attribute roll and see if we can find anything. So now we're seeing 30 or 90 chaos. The idea here is this is going to give you a little bit more control over figuring out what this item may be worth. Now, if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to use this kind of add-on, either you're worried about getting banned or you're worried about something else, or maybe you're on console, I'm not too certain how console works. If you want to do this manually, you can just go to the trade website itself, and we'll start from scratch on this, right? So we're going to clear. We're going to look up the La Hoop All, which we can find here. You're going to show filters, and you can do this quite easily, right? So we're going to search for it. Now, to get those same exact modifiers that you saw before, all you have to do is click this little button right here, which says Filter by Item Stats. Once you click that, it's going to add all of the stats of the item here. You're going to have to type in your parameters manually for whatever your ring might be. But you can put all of these in, you can unclick them to make sure that they're not there if you don't want to sort by those. Say you just want to do damage and rarity, right? And then you can do your 24% damage and your 26% rarity, hit search, and then you'll find the same roll. So it can be done manually. PoE Overlay just makes it easier. Now the next question you probably have is, well, how do I know an item is actually good before I spend all of my time checking every single item that I pick up? This one is a little bit more difficult, but generally the best way to obtain this kind of knowledge is to expand your horizons when it comes to builds. Play a large variety of builds and be willing to at least learn about how some of them work and the items that they're looking for. I also suggest that as you move your way up into maps that you start increasing the strictness of your filter if you're using the filter from filterblade.xyz. Typically, once I get towards endgame, I'm I'm all the way up to very strict at the least. Also on top of that, I sometimes do special edits to mine. Like right now, fusings and jewelers are worth almost nothing, so I've actually removed most of those from my filter. You can jump onto my profile and see my filters if you'd like an idea of what I personally run. But a good way to get a glimpse of the items that are worth something right now is to check poe.ninja and look at the build section. At the current moment while this video is being filmed, we're at the very end of the Delirium League, and Herald is running amok. So take a look at the most popular builds and see what kind of items they're using. This may also give you a good idea of what you should be farming. A small note for pricing items. Sometimes you may get an offer for a little bit less than what you've actually posted it for. Don't get stuck up because they're lowballing you if that item has been up for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that. Just suck it up and sell it to them for a little bit less. The alternative is that you most likely won't sell the item at all. Now once you've got an idea of the types of items that are worth something, a very solid way to make a ridiculous amount of money is to start attempting to craft your own gear. I'll be making a video series about crafting, and if those videos are out, you should see a link to it at the top right of the screen. If that isn't there and that video exists, come ping the hell out of me out on Discord, linked below, telling me that I need to get my act together and I should be ashamed of myself for forgetting this small thing. How dare I have a life and hobbies outside of providing content? The idea here is that crafting the item that you're looking for will generally cost more than if you bought it outright. However, when crafting, there is a high chance that before you obtain the final version of the item, you may get an incomplete version that's maybe missing a mod or two that you're looking for, or is something for a completely different build. Instead of making the mistake of rolling over that item and keeping on with crafting, sell that item and start another one from scratch. In general, you'll end up with a lot more money at the end if you look at it this way instead of just hard rolling items until you get what you want. A good example of this would be cluster jewels. Rolling cluster jewels is relatively simple, and you may randomly land upon a crazy combination that you aren't looking for but is worth an exalt or more. Sell that and start with a new base. As you gain more game knowledge and raise the level of your crafting skills, you'll see your profits go up as well. You'll see quite commonly when I'm streaming over at twitch.tv/bigducks that I'll spend a large amount of time just sitting in hideout crafting items. I make a ton of money this way throughout the league, and crafting items will teach you a lot about the game that you may not be aware of. For me, I would say that the biggest mistake that most people make when they're trying to earn more currency is that they don't scale themselves far enough into endgame. I see this happen all the time. Someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm really not making that much currency, what do I do? And I ask what they're doing, and they're running white maps. So the amount of currency earned from doing red tier map content will vastly outweigh the currency you'll make in low tier map content. This is true for any part of the game, whether it be delves, simulacrums, elder slayers, Cirrus farming, whatever it might be. Simply doing the higher tier version of the content on average is going to give you more rewards. This may seem obvious, but it's one of the worst offenders when it comes to feedback I get on people having currency earning trouble. Now this also includes investing more into your mapping or crafting. You have to be willing to spend currency to be able to get more out of it without simply getting lucky with giant multi-exalt drops. When running high tier maps, you should be willing to spend the money on buying sextants and scarabs and rolling Zana map mods, as well as using your master missions. Adding in all of these different layers will substantially increase the returns you get from just simple mapping. You can run Zana map mods in the hopes of getting an Elder or Shaper Guardian. Those fragments are worth a ton. She can also give you synthesis maps all the way up to the Cortex, which can drop a flask that's worth like 17 exalt right now. You can also set up your board in the Syndicate to be able to upgrade Chayula Breachstones through It That Fled from being worth 50 chaos to all the way above 400 chaos each. You can run Alva missions to get double corrupt altars or gem corruption altars to gamble on insane drops, or you can do the sacrifice altar upgrades with things like Transcendent Flesh to eke out a little bit more currency of your time spent. All of these things combined will add up over time, and although it may seem like you're spending a lot of currency just funding these map runs, you'll notice that your currency amounts will trend upwards over time, even with you funding new builds and buying more gear. Now the last tip I have for you is that items that you can't really price or you aren't sure about, what you do is you create a few tabs with specific prices and just dump them in there. What I personally do is I create a few tabs at like 40 or 30 chaos, and I dump the items that I'm really not sure about into them. After the tab either fills up or the item's sitting there for long enough, I move things that haven't sold into the next lowest tab. As you find jewels while mapping, grab all of the ones that seem even remotely useful and just drop them in the highest cost tab. A few days later, if they haven't sold, just move them down the list. I've made quite a bit of money from this and generally sell 1 to 2, maybe even 3 items a day from each of these tabs. In the long run, this is going to profit you quite a bit of currency. You can even leave the game up in the background while you're doing whatever else and simply simply run trades while you're watching YouTube videos like this one, or working from home. Expand on this idea and keep track of what kinds of items sell and how much they sell for, and it'll give you a read on the market for items and you'll be able to sell them for a more appropriate price in the future. If you have any tips that I could use in another video like this, make sure to leave them down in the comments or join my Discord and let me know on there. Also, don't forget to like the video if it helped you out and consider subscribing if you want more content similar to this. Stay safe out there in raid class, and I'll see you guys in the next video.